This is the voice of Judge Roland Freisler. Charming fellow, wasn't he? He was the infamous judge at Hitler's People's Court. Because I want you to hear the voice of denunciation. This is what it sounds like to denounce. It is important that we remember that denouncing people is far from a kindly affair. Throughout the ages we have seen societies fall into the trap of denunciation. The terrors of Roman emperors Tiberius, Caligula and Nero spring to mind, the Holy Inquisition, the French Revolution, the Soviet Union, especially under Stalin, and as we have seen, Hitler's Germany. There are other outstanding examples. Romania's security service, the dreaded Securitate, springs to mind, so too the notorious Stasi in East Germany. What all those societies had in common is that people were encouraged to denounce their neighbours. There was almost a denunciation industry, offering perks and privileges to those who would provide dirt on others. The dirt did not need to be true. It just needed to provide the security services with sufficient reason to act. These security services had an interest in finding ever more people to arrest. They needed to justify their own existence. Also, their members wanted successful careers. As Mr. Robespierre amply demonstrated in his day, rounding up enemies of the state was a good way to get ahead. Stalin's head of security, Lavrenti Beria, also knew that all too well. So why all this talk of denunciation? Well, are we not well on our way to a new age of denunciation? An age where people may not be dragged off to some gulag by the totalitarian state, but where nonetheless people are encouraged to denounce their fellow man. Where activists film themselves denouncing politicians or other activists.
Listen, you are a horrible little liar!
Where MPs' offices are vandalised with the word traitor. What is the term traitor, if not the purest form of denunciation? Television interviews which are not an attempt at seeking to introduce the audience to the ideas and philosophy of the interviewee, but are instead simply opportunities for the supposed enemy of the people to be publicly denounced by the interviewer.
You're just saying these things, though, to provoke, aren't you? I mean,
Not
you
a
are
bit.
a provocateur.
I never said
You're like
anything.
the alt-right that you hate to be compared to.
Makes sense.
You sound like a hypocrite.
I don't care. It's a joke.
Because when
who isn't a hypocrite?
when you're the target, you blame the words on newspapers or the media. But when you target someone by attaching their name to your rape joke, that's okay.
Yeah,
But we are all used to the concept of the partisan media. Various broadcasters and print media pumping out endless party political content for the supporters to cheer and whatever smear pieces of opponents they can lay their hands on. However, social media platforms in particular have now become a denunciation sausage machine. Not merely by granting people the chance to upload their denunciations of political factions they don't like, but, more importantly, to denounce each other to the very social media companies. Everlastingly people are being denounced. To the platforms. This person shouldn't be permitted to speak, because he's this, because he's that. The denunciations trip off the tongue so easily. Extremist, far-right, Islamophobe, Nazi, and so on and so on. Pray, what happens to those who denounce someone when the social media company decides the offence insufficient to act or non-existent? Is there ever a downside to denunciation on these platforms? After all, why only ever act against the accused and never the accuser? Because to introduce an element of risk to the accuser on these social media platforms would deter them from bringing false accusations, at least to some degree, would it not? And to whom does this hand all the power? Why, to the companies, of course, and to any governments who would seek to exert influence upon those companies. And let us not forget, to all those militants who would seek to shut down those they regard as their ideological enemies. The social media companies in particular have created a system whereby they invite denunciation, because denouncing someone has no perceivable downside, but may indeed succeed in getting people silenced. The companies themselves get provided with ready reasons for which to rid themselves of people of which they themselves disapprove, but to act against them due to their own bias alone would appear illiberal. Therefore it is handy to have a constant flow of denunciations upon which they can choose to act if they so desire. The ultimate power in deciding who gets to keep his voice remains with those corporations. The power to act, meanwhile, to accuse, is technically handed to all of us. Yet in practice it is handed to those ruthless enough and sufficiently lacking in decency actually to make use of it. And these people, like eager little Stasi informants, are happy to undertake this task. Frankly, they revel in it, and they are getting ever more well practiced. The trend seems only one way. Platforms like YouTube have even embraced institutional trusted flaggers, like the Southern Poverty Law Centre, in a startling pretense at this body being a fair and balanced organisation, and not a political lobby group. And therein lies much of the truth behind denunciation societies. The truth is irrelevant. Denunciations are useful to those engaged in cleansing their societies of wrong thinkers. The denunciation needn't be acted upon. It is in the gift of the people in power. The denunciation merely provides the excuse to act, if one chooses to do so. Meanwhile, the people themselves are gradually trained to live with such denunciation. They are afforded every opportunity to rat out those they do not like to some unspecified higher authority. With every time they do so, their restraint is eroded a little, until they do so at the drop of a hat. Others, meanwhile, are taught to bite their tongues, to watch their back, to know that anyone at any time might denounce them to their betters. And with every denunciation, with every curtailment, with every ban, we take another step towards becoming a full-blown denunciation society. That is all from the Cyberpass for now. Thank you very much, and goodbye.